Good afternoon. Hi, 10 George Realty. What an honor it is to be with you all today. This is one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to talk to you and help in any way I can and train. So I am going to share my screen and we are going to go over the residential lease agreement. Okay, share. Okay, so I did not load the agency disclosure form, but please have an agency disclosure, whether it's under a year or not. I know the lease stipulates that it for a year, for over a year, you need the agency disclosure, but we want it whether it's under a year or at a year. We still want that agency disclosure, okay? So make sure that you load that up. It'll load separately, okay? So I am going to come down now. And what I did is I took a residential month to month and I filled it out as if I were filling it out for a client. So we date it today. It's going to be the tenant, the owner's name, and the address of the premise. And I always want to make sure that I put who's going to be using it. So I put John tenant and one minor child. I don't ask for the children's name. I always, if I know there's one minor, I'll just put two or one minor child. I don't ask for their names.
Nor their sex or anything?
No, I ask for nothing. Yeah.
Only if they're 18 or over, right?
You get in trouble. You get in jail.
Because I think it's their privacy. I don't want to ask.
Oh.
But if they tell me they have a minor child, I'll add it. If not, you don't have to. It's only if they told you that, okay?
What if the child's over 18?
The child is an adult and you need to put their name. So if the person is 18 or above, they're considered an adult. Okay. So you would need to put that because it may be just John tenant, but there may be occupants such as John tenant, son tenant, but maybe, the son that's a tenant. So maybe it's just one person on the agreement. I do not ask them their status about children. That's only if they mentioned it to me. Because I had one tenant that wanted me to add that once because they said, can you add that? So don't ask them about their children, when you're initially interviewing them, please don't, because there's, things that we shouldn't. We'll go over some things.
So when they asked you to add it, you just added one minor, right?
Yeah, when they told me to add it, I add their child. They said, we have a minor child. Could you add that child? I said, yes. So I added one minor child.
So no need to be specific.
Okay, no, Okay, so you always want to on numbers, excuse me, right underneath here, any person other than those listed are considered guests. Guests are not permitted to stay more than 14 days without the housing provider's written consent, or some housing providers will amend it to 7 days. That's up to the housing provider, but please make sure you're pointing that out so they understand that. See, you're going to put in the personal property that's included, and it's going to become very important, and I'll show you why in a separate part of the contract. Refrigerator, microwave, dishwasher, stove. Now you notice some of these may be attached, but I still want to call it, out here. Okay, because it's going to be maintained pursuant to paragraph 11. So in this case, this term is going to begin on June 1st. And we're not doing a month to month, we're doing a full lease till 5/31/26 will be the termination date. And I always give them until about 8 because sometimes if they're having moving trucks, you could do 9 even, but usually you want to give them a little time. I don't like to cut it at 5 o'clock. I like to terminate at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, just in case they have moving trucks, just to be courteous to them. So the tenant is agreeing to pay $3,000 a month. I'm not going to amend this. Rent will be due and payable on the first day of each month. Or if the housing provider wanted it amended, they could. Payment. Rent shall be paid by personal check or cashier's check and made payable to Clara owner. I didn't check money order. And the only reason I did not check money order is because about a year ago, I had heard about and, some money orders that weren't real. So now I tend to only check, I'll put cashier's check or personal check. Okay. I do not ever check for money order.
How about Zeno?
It's,
Yeah, Zeno.
yeah, it's right here. See right here? It says payment, okay, or other payment via electronic apps such as PayPal or Venmo will not be accepted unless the property owner has you check the box that they will accept it. I don't do that. Most of the people I work with don't want that.
I explained it to the owner and a tenant both at the same time, and they both agreed there, and the owner said, yeah, I'll set it down, and the other, he asked them, they both accepted.
As long as you check the box,
Yeah.
it's in contract,
Yeah.
but you do have to mention it because it defaults to they're not going to accept it. So you need to know where that is too. Okay. So, and these are questions you're going to be asking the property owner. They're going to know you're on your game when you're asking these questions and pointing out these clauses. So rent's going to be delivered to Clara owner is her name, phone number, and her address. I didn't stipulate any hours here because she's not in office. She's this is being mailed to either a PO box or her residence. Okay. So I didn't put any office hours. So if the payment is returned for NSF, the future rent shall be paid by, and you'll see here, I checked cashier's check, of course, that is up to the property owner. And I just stay away from money order, but that's up to them. Tenant agrees to pay $3,000 as a security deposit. You notice that it matches the rent. Okay, so I did not go over at all. So on C, the deposit needs to be transferred and held by the owner of the premises. We do not hold anything in a trust account here. We don't have it. That goes directly over to the property owner. Make sure the tops of your forms are all dated. So today, I'm not going to go paragraph by paragraph, which sometimes I get crazy and do. I'm going to go over the fill-ins because if you hit all these fill-ins, it's pretty good, pretty safe. Okay.
The deposit, security deposit equal to 1 month.
Yes.
If it's furnished, is it 2 months?
Yeah, there's a security deposit form I'm going to pull up. And I would recommend, because there's so many questions on it, that you always put that in your package. CAR created a form for this. Go ahead, Christine.
No, I believe the new rule says furnished also 1 month.
It's furnished 1 month. Okay, well, it'll be on the form. Sorry about that. Thank you. Christine is my go-to. Me and her collaborate a lot. So thank you for that. I learn every day. Okay, so we will look that up about the furnished, but it should be on this form that we have. So this is important here, the move-in costs. You're going to look at number 5, move-in costs. How do you want those move-in funds paid to the property owner? You can either do a cashier's check or electronic wire or whatever the property owner says. We usually collect the cashier's check along with the lease signing. But that, again, is for you to discuss with the property owner. Make sure this is all filled in. So you're going to collect rent when they come in and sign in this cashier's check for $3,000. And you don't want it any later than 5/31, but you might want to backdate that even to 5/25, whatever, because you want the property owner to be able to get that into the bank. So this date may be earlier, right? Maybe you're going to collect it here because you want to give them time to get it into the bank, okay? Security deposit is $3,000. Clara, the owner. Now it says payment received. Here, you can give them back a copy of the cashier's check. When you make a copy of the lease that they've executed, give the tenant back. It's only one signature at that point. Always give a copy back and make a copy of their deposit check. Give that back to them. Once the property owner has that check in their hand, they may hand date this. Okay, when they received it, the property owner, they can hand date it when they're signing. Okay, so make sure that gets hand dated. Late charge return checks, 5%. It's pretty standard, or it could be a little higher. That is something for you to discuss.
You can write it in,
Or a
on the
sum.
zip form. The hand dated, you can write on the zip form and have them initial.
Okay.
technically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't date it sometimes because I want to make sure it's in their hand and I have them date it. And then you're saying then you email it to them?
On the zip form, when you send the lease agreement to the owner to do e-sign, you can put the dated and have an initial.
Oh, we do all wet signature, but yes. Yeah, I'm just so used to wet signature. So yeah, yeah, you can. Sometimes wet signature really isn't convenient.
I did
Okay,
that because I know I've forgotten something. I'm like, we have to send them back.
right. So you always want to check on 7. We have seen parking wars. So you want to check, how are they parking? So in this case, garage is attached to home, but there are other parking situations where they have a stall or they have a numbered parking space. So if that's the case, make sure you're putting parking space number blah, blah, or there's instances where it's a large parking lot and it's a first come, first served basis. If that is the case, you want to include that because we don't want to have parking wars later and them questioning, okay? So make sure that you're checking one of the box. If you're downtown, maybe there is no parking permitted on the property. Maybe it's just a building that doesn't allow for any parking. So make sure that you are handling the parking. Parking can be first come, first served. There's a lot of lots like that on larger apartment complexes, so that's perfectly okay to put. Storage is really important too. Except normally you're going to have B, except for tenant's personal property contained within the premises. Storage is not permitted on the premises. Now, maybe they have a parking stall, and we've all seen them where there's this little cubby that you can stick a lock on that they can store in. If that's provided for in the lease, maybe the landlord has their own lock or property owner and they don't want to allow for that, that's fine. But if they're going to allow for that, they can annotate it here, A, and it would be storage is permitted, storage bin above parking spot, number, blah, blah, whatever. Okay, we've all seen those closets. And sometimes they're included and sometimes they're excluded because maybe they don't want to take their stuff out. Okay. So these are just little tricks of the trade that we should just make sure we're filling in everything because the car attorneys took a lot of time to put this together for us. So utilities, the tenant in this case is agreeing to pay for all utilities and services and the following: Wi-Fi and internet as they desire it. If they want it, they need to pay for it. We want to make sure that they don't think it's flying in the building and, or in the house and it's already there. Okay. So if they desire it, they can pay for it. Wouldn't pertain to probably a single family, but you'll see some condos with submeters, water submeters. If that's the case, you do need to let them know and it'll populate with a water submeter form. Okay. So, or gas meter. The submeters are usually water. I haven't seen too many electric and gas meters submetered. Okay. But if that's the case, these are questions you're going to highlight the lease, and so excited to be working for you. And you're going to ask them these questions and they're going to know you're on top of your game. Okay. So check all that applied here. Okay. So now we're at the condition of the premises. So I really, really would advise that the move-in form, that car move-in form, is done prior, 4 days, 3 days, whatever prior. The agent should be taking that tenant to that property and having them perform their move-in. And then it's checked into the lease that they already have it. And why is that? Because if you leave it till after they've got in, you may not see it. So you want to make sure that that's checked in and that they do it ahead of time. And if you're the listing agent, give it back to you. Tell them, the landlord's really excited to execute this lease. We're waiting for a couple of disclosures or whatever you need back from them. Make sure your disclosures are included when you push this lease out to the tenant's agent or the tenant. If you're representing dual, make sure all your disclosures are there. Okay. So if you come down to maintenance use and reporting B, I checked that the tenant shall water the garden and landscaping, but that may not be right. Maybe there's in a house, they have auto sprinkler. So these are things you need to ask Mr. and Mrs. property owner. Do you have auto sprinklers? Who will be watering the yard? You ask them these questions. So the reason I'm checking all this is because I think this is a good talking point for you to know what you're asking. Once you get the listing agreement, then you can interview them on all this. First thing first is always grab your listing agreement and get it signed first. So, I took this out here. See, I put down in other terms, excuse me. So let me just delete that. Okay, don't pay attention to that right now. I have that annotated somewhere. So remember, I told you up at the top, we always want to say what we're leaving in the property. So on H, you always want to bring those down too. It says the following items of personal property are included without warranty, and housing provider will not maintain, repair, or replace them. So here's the list. Because sometimes you'll have people that keep calling you on an appliance, and maybe the property owner will do it once, twice, whatever, but so to keep from having that done constantly, you always want to fill in what you're leaving them in H. And this is something you can discuss with the property owner. Do you not want to repair these? Do you not want to warranty them? If so, then we need to put those appliances in H. So that protects the property owner. So animals, unless otherwise agreed to in the attached animal terms and condition addendum.
So the stoves, even though attached, seller has no obligation, I mean, the landlord has no obligation to repair, to do the repairing,
I don't. Like if it's
even though it's attached.
they can repair it maybe once. These are questions you need to ask them. What's the condition of the stove? How old is it? Are you willing to repair it once? So you need to know the terms of what they're willing to do. Right? Yeah, if it's attached, I'm thinking of pull-out stoves, but maybe if it's attached in the counter, they may have to repair it, but ask them the condition. Are they willing to repair it? How old are these appliances? Things of that nature, okay? I always add the appliances here if I'm writing the lease. I just do it. And then they can negotiate if they want to repair it, but I always kind of cover it in the lease that way. Okay. Of course, if it's under an HOA, you're going to need to provide the HOA, here, condominium planned unit. In this case, we're not dealing with an HOA on number 16, so I didn't check it. If you do have condominium rules, I would always want to go to number 2, and make sure that they're provided either ahead of the lease agreement, before they sign it, or with the lease agreement. So you always want to pre-email whatever the rules are. Maybe it's something they don't want to, they don't like. So make sure those rules and regs are out early, okay? So tenant acknowledges receipt of, and then we've checked boxes here on the commencement date. I don't like giving out keys, anything until commencement date. I don't like early give out, even if it's vacant. I like it on commencement date, but again, up to the property owner. Because at that point, you want to make sure they have renter's insurance and all that. So we'll go down and I'll show you that. So,
Like the sale of a condo, for leasing, you need to provide the HOA documents.
Very important.
Yeah, they have a section in there that are rules and regs, as I recall. It's not the full package because they're not buying it, but there are rules and regulations for the occupants that the HOA documents contain. And as a listing agent, you should be, and that's why I want you to highlight this, because when you're taking this list, and of course, first get your listing, and then these are questions. This is a discussion you're going to have. The property owner is going to love you because they're going to feel like, gosh, you're really taking care of me. So yeah, there are rules and regs in that package. It's not the full HOA package when you're buying.
But it's very important,
Really important.
very important,
Yeah,
especially smoking and dogs.
yeah. So on number 18A, you're going to put the number of items you're giving them: one key to the premise, one key to the mailbox, one key to the remote, one remote control device. Now 18B is extremely important. You need to check, has it been rekeyed or has it not been rekeyed? If it's not rekeyed, maybe the tenant will say, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'll pay to rekey it, but I'll give the property owner a new key. That's okay, but you need to let them know up front, is this property been rekeyed? And these are, these are things you're going to talk to the property owner about. Okay. Any of the things you're filling in are things you can have a discussion about. So the tenant's obligation on 25A, I also want to add, and I don't know why I wasn't doing it before, but I want to add that the tenant will perform a move-out inspection, and they're going to provide the move-out inspection form to housing provider. So when I give them the lease document, I'm also going to give them a move-out form and put a sticky on it or something, or email it to them and say, this is
So
the
you
form
can-
for move-out. So I want to make sure that they
And,
know
computer
that,
system,
oh, can you mute yourself?
these three computers.
Okay, can you mute yourself, David? Okay, so I want to make sure that they're doing the move out form. Remember, it used to be one form, but now they've separated it. There's a move in form and a move out form. So I want to pre-give that tenant that move out form, because I'm going to make it required on 25A, along with the other things they have to do for move out. Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
Move in.
Move in.
Move in.
there,
Yeah, move
Yeah.
inspection form.
when moving out, there are two forms. One is a pre-move out inspection, and then there's a move out.
Okay.
So they're supposed to do pre-move out.
So-
couple weeks before move out, so give the tenant a chance.
Is there a car form on
Yeah,
that,
it's
Christine?
a
Because
car
I don't
form.
use it. Okay, I'll pull that up, pre-move out. So we'll look at that together. Thank you, Christine. Yeah,
Then finally move out.
and you want to make sure you get these documents back. And as soon as the housing provider gets it back, they should go to the unit or the house and inspect it for themselves. If they need to document or take pictures of anything that they need to, okay? So here I think is really, really important, 29C, insurance. I looked at my daughter has a little apartment up north for college, and we do have to provide liability insurance every year.
Wow.
So I looked up the amount, it's 100,000. So I think it's important. The property owner up there is also a real estate agent, so she tends to stay pretty tight on things. And if you don't provide them that, they're going to charge you monthly. So I think it's important to have a discussion with the property owner. Would you like me to ask for in the lease the liability insurance and what limits? Okay. So I just looked up ours, it was 100,000. Yours could be different. Okay, so whatever the property owner wishes you to do, okay?
Michelle, is that, even though you don't have a dog, right?
This is without a dog. We're not even allowed to have a dog.
No, but.
This is just my one human up there.
The biggest liability is if you have a dog and it bites somebody.
Right. This is just for one human in the apartment and yeah,
Somebody trips and falls and.
yeah, they make us have it.
But what happens if you have a tenant that needs a service dog?
Well, that's not a pet.
That's not okay, so that, okay.
But I mean, they still can't go around biting people, right?
No,
Yeah.
but does that cover, no, he's saying does that, that's. what I'm
That's
thinking.
I'm not an insurance
No, I
salesperson.
understand, but as
so-
just if you're an agent or a landlord and they have a service dog, you wanna make sure they have that 100,000.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Right, you need the liability, but also
Anyway.
the service animal addendum, if that's the case.
I forgot about.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the notices, make sure you do fill these out. These are where each, Clara owner would be notified and John tenant. Okay. So make sure this is filled out. Okay, I'm coming down. So the disclosures, it auto checks mold and dampness on 38A, but I like to give them 38D. I always check for the residential environmental hazards booklet. Once you check it, it auto populates. You can either print it and put it in the kitchen, on the counter, or whatever, I tend to give them that, okay? And it's also going to populate with these other bed bugs, flood hazard disclosure, things of that nature. So agency, even though you have your agency disclosure, please make sure this is filled out properly. All of this on number 41, make sure you have, this is, High 10 George Realty. And down here, owner agreement to pay tenants broker. So we dueled on this, High 10 George Realty, right? But remember, in our listing agreement, we're only asking for the listing side. So now, if we're dueling, we still need to ask for a commission, okay? So I put 2.5 fixed term lease. Now, if that's only on one side, so you put whatever you want, 3%, 4%, whatever you're going to put in there. If you represent the tenant, number one, what do we need? Tenant rep. TRBC. We have to have that, right? To be able to represent the tenant. And then owner agreement to pay tenant's broker. You can click this box, put whatever the amount is in. Okay. Now down here, the property owner may or may not want you to do this, but C is an option. Payment to compensation out of tenant move-in funds. So remember, we're collecting 6,000 because we have 3 and 3, right? So the tenant's broker, if we use the 2.5 as an example, 3,000 times 12 times 2.5% is 900 each side, right? So 900 each side, and then the housing provider's cashier's check would be 5,100. So if you can do it that way, or you can invoice them, maybe it's faster to do it this way. So that's another thing that you can discuss with your property owner. Hey, when the money comes in, we usually ask to pay the brokerages out of the initial deposit, and then you get the rest on a cashier's check. So, but make sure you're clearing it with them and having that discussion after your listing agreement is signed. Okay.
Does that usually happen in most cases? Because I know the gentleman I was representing, he kind of didn't want that.
Some don't want it, but some agents do. So some agents discuss it and they will allow it. So if they don't want it, you don't click the box and don't fill in any payment. So if that was the case, this would be unclicked and there would be no amounts in here. Okay.
What about in the
Michelle?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to ask you again. What did you say? How much did you put down for the fixed amount for the brokers? Was it 2.5?
Right, but you could put 3, 4, whatever you want. I'm just running through training, but but if you're dueling on this, remember, you have to ask for the tenant side, because on your listing agreement, you only ask for the property owner side of
Right.
commission. Right. And you have to have the TRBC as well.
Okay.
Okay. So if you come down here, these things I think they autofill. These are autofilled. Okay. I clicked the lease rental mold and ventilation. We do have a checklist for what's required on leases. Please review that. Bed bug's going to populate. The tenant flood hazard disclosure will auto populate. Offer of tenant positive rental payment reporting. Now you'll see down here, I clicked other terms. And what I put here was housing provider shall provide a gardener on a bi-weekly basis at housing provider's expense. So I put that because, you know, a lot of times a property owner wants their property to be looking spruced up. My parents take it another step. They do that, but they also pay for a portion of the water. They do not want the tenant not watering that property because they're on board for the full amount. So they do, I don't know, you probably know better than me, Christine. I don't remember what they credit, but they credit an amount back to them to handle the water. Okay.
It's $40, $50.
Yeah, monthly. And then on number 30, you see I put paragraph 30. I'm going to go right back up to that. No water-filled furniture shall be allowed in the premises. So let's go back up to paragraph 30. And I think this is important and I want to show you. So I wanted to show you that. So now I'm back up at 30. So you look at 30, I don't want people bringing in a portable washing machine to the premise, anything like that. If you notice on this paragraph, it says they can have a waterbed if they get the insurance. But in my case, for my property owner, they don't want water-filled furniture. So I'm going to make sure they understand, hey, even if you had a, insurance policy, I don't want the waterbed. So I don't want a portable washing machine, portable dishwasher. I don't know why that's not showing. So I think that's a portable dishwasher. Those things, because my daughter used them in college in a dorm, that washer, water, it was like, and I told her, oh my gosh, get rid of it. Luckily we were on tile, but it can be very messy. So you want to take care of paragraph 30. And if they really don't want water-filled furniture, make sure you're taking that out. Okay. So where did okay, 36, pay attention to the attorney fees. It defaults at $1,000. If you want it to be 2,000 or more, you would put that there, okay? So if any action or proceeding arising out of this agreement, the prevailing party between the housing provider and tenant shall be entitled to reasonable attorney fees and costs collectively not to exceed 1,000 is where it defaults. So you can, amend that. Yeah, it's up to the homeowner or the property owner. So you make sure that you're addressing all this so they know you're looking at your contract, okay? Because they're relying on us to be doing this. So, and most of us are really, really good at it. So we have really good agents here. So no worries. So tenant signature would go down here. Of course, you would fill all this out and address and all that. If it happens to be an entity tenant, then you would check it. Okay.
What's an entity?
An entity is an LLC, corporation, trust.
What about,
This here.
what about the person's, the actual owner is an older lady in her 90s, can barely write, can barely speak, and then you have someone that's the trust or like
The executive?
Yeah.
Somebody that has authority?
Yeah,
That's okay. The person with authority of the trust,
okay,
who's ever got the authority in the trust,
okay.
you better check though, because
I do.
yeah, make sure that you've checked and make sure legally that's the person that's supposed to be signing. Because they have the authority of the trust and over that, you know, that property, correct? The
Yeah,
property
that's what-
resides in it. Okay. So maybe if it's an entity, maybe they want a guarantor. So you would click this box. Okay, so entity. If it's an entity, maybe they want a guarantor, maybe they want an individual. You click this box and fill all that out. Okay,
But most time you don't need that, right? Guarantee?
if it's an individual signing,
Yeah.
on a residential, usually not. But you don't know, it's hard to answer that because we don't know their credit score, right?
Unless, like,
Yeah.
For example, 18-year-old or 21 years old college student, whatnot, they might want to check.
I
that.
have to guarantee my daughters and I don't think I'll ever get off of it till she
Yeah.
leaves. That property owner is never gonna let me off that guarantee until my daughter's out of that apartment. She's a college student. So I had to guarantee the lease.
What about
Okay,
those for co-signers, that co-sign for tenants and stuff like that?
that's kind of what this is, because they're guarantee the financial, you know, but they're on for everything.
Yeah.
So you have to really, it's a consideration, okay? So then, once the housing provider, you've gone over this with them, they review everything and they like it, they sign it. Make sure all of this is filled out properly. Even if you're dueling, please fill out both sections, not just one, because we want to have the tenants firm and the housing providers firm, okay? So that concludes that. The bed bug automatically populates. I'm not going to go over disclosures today, the tenant flood, but these are auto populates, okay? I want to go over and look for that form that Christine mentioned. Christine is my comrade who teaches me something every week, and I enjoy it. Okay. All right. So what form did you say it was, Christine, that they need at move out?
Pre-move out.
Okay, let's take a look together.
Then there is another form.
Okay. Oh, I misspelled it.
Oh.
Well, I don't see a move out. Okay. So we'll look for a pre-move out, and when I find it, I'll send it out to everybody. But make sure that you do have the move out form in your package to them. Here is the security deposit disclosure that I think is really nice that they did. I'm going to open it.
Yeah, I have to get that moving this week. In fact, you're the one that told me about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so the security deposit disclosure and addendum, I recommend that you put this on all of your leases. Residential rental property security deposit law provides that they haven't updated this form, but a property owner may not demand or receive security deposit. However denominated, meaning don't cut it up and think that because you're making it a key deposit and all that, that you can get more money than the 3,000 in our example. It's 3,000 period, okay? And an automatic or value in excess of 1 month's rent, okay? There's exceptions here listed in number 2. So you can read that. Security deposit limit for members of the armed services. Even if there's an exception up here, they still limit it. If that's the case, then the representation of the security member status will be checked down here to indicate that they are a member of this armed forces or whatever branch they're in. It outlines them all here, okay? And let's see, let me go back. So are there any questions from Zoom? Any questions? Okay,
Move-in inspection,
move.
out.
Okay, I have that one.
The last one.
Okay, we found it, okay, let me take a look at this form. This may be one we need to add to that section where we're gonna require it. Oh, this is, okay, this is the move out, okay,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Okay. So So the purpose of this inspection is to identify deficiencies in the premise that need to be remedied by you in order to avoid certain deductions from your security deposit. So who's doing this? Let me look back. I'm sorry, this is
Between the landlord.
it's the landlord and okay. So the housing provider can go ahead and do a pre-move out inspection. Now, just so you know, you can be present at that. For instance, when my daughter moves out, but she's such a clean freak, there will be nothing wrong. I will have her request to be present during the move out inspection with the property management company. I will make her stand there with them, or ask her to, I should say. But this can be performed by the property owner prior to the tenant moving out. Okay, thank you. I think that would be too long. 2 weeks.
There's another form, I can't remember. Other than this, there's another form.
And it says on number 3, who were the individuals present at this inspection?
Yeah.
So you note that. So this is a form that the property owner can use to go do a pre-move out inspection. On our checklist, we're not requiring it. We do make sure you have the move out. But this is a good idea, Christine. So if there's anything that comes up that they may be hitting their security deposit with, that's why I always think you should go to the move out inspection. The tenant should, okay? So that later they're not calling you or, something. And
This is if you're representing the tenant, correct? Or the.
This has nothing to
Okay.
do with us. This
Well,
is
I mean,
between the tenant and the property owner. If you want to supply this to the property owner, go ahead. And that's up to them to complete this, not up to us. Because they will notify the tenant themselves, because it's now between them, when they're going to be performing this inspection. So you can give this in a package to make it easier for the property owner. Okay.
Who will pay the credit report?
Pardon me?
The credit report.
The
That's it.
The tenant pays for the credit report. So when you're collecting an application, we didn't go over that today. I'll just briefly run through a couple things. Oh, bless you. When you ask for an application, I'm going to stop my share. When you're asking the tenant for an application, what I think you should do, or this is my advice, put a package of applications on the countertop. Anybody that wants to take that package may take it. It is not up to us. Let the property owner review. If they ask you any questions like, oh, will they accept this or that, we'll submit and we'll let the property owner review it. Okay. If you are asking for certain items on that application, you need to be asking for the same from every single person. So what may the property owner want to see? They may, okay, so they're going to want a fully completed application. They may want a government issued ID. Okay. They may want a credit report. And what is the fee for that? Who is that payable to? And how, so that kind of thing. And you want to collect the data, but it all has to be across the board, the same data you would collect from everybody. So you have a list.
Does CAR have an application form that they recommend? Because a lot of owners either don't take an application, which I don't recommend, or they make up something kind of makeshift. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, there is.
There's
There's a CAR form application that all the residential, most of them are using. On commercial, you are correct. A lot of the big commercial tenants, they have their own application package. But I would think the residential, we should probably just use this. It's easier. It's already made for us. But just when you're collecting applications, don't say no, you can't have an application. Give everybody an application. If they ask if the property owner accepts Section 8, yes, submit your application. Do they accept service animals? Yes, submit your application and the property owner will take a look. It's not up to us to turn anybody down. We just collect the information and we give it to the property owner. So we're the conduit for collecting the data, and then the property owner will make the decision, okay? And we can go over disclosures another time. I just don't want to run this too long. Does anybody online have any questions?
No, they did this, I was.
Okay, with that, I'll conclude this. Now you have your checklist. When you get those residential listings, be sure and address all those items. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you all. And I'll see you in Monday's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I think, when I